Well, hi everyone, and thank you for joining our very last keynote of the evening. She's very inspirational, and I'm going to let her say hi to you really quick and tell us where she's at.
Hi everybody, I'm Rusul Alrubail. I am talking to you guys today from Toronto. I'm at home. We actually just moved to this house a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and I'm very excited to be here.
And we are super excited that you are here. I was telling Rusul earlier that one of the reasons why I had her come was because I invited her was because I wanted to hear her speak, and because she has such a powerful and very strong and wonderful voice on social media, and so you often are very inspired, and then you want to see them present, and so I said, well, I'll invite her to this.
Thank you so much, Shelley. Thank you. I'm really glad I'm here, and I feel really humbled by this invitation. I'm very excited.
And we are excited too. There's already people talking in the chat box how they wanted to see you as well. So we're going to go, as she gets her presentation ready, I'm going to let you know a little about Rusul. She is a writer on education, teaching, and learning. In fact, one of the things that I really loved was Ruba Zuniga's, she had done a sketch note of her blogging article on Edutopia, and I think that went viral. But she is a blogger for Edutopia. She has written on Education Week, for Education Week Medium and PBS NewsHour. She is also the editor of the Synapse Medium's largest publication on learning, teaching, and education. She's co-creator of the Writing Project, which is kind of a brand new platform she's brought on, and it's for essay writing. It's an essay writing platform for students. We're going to provide you with, it's writingproject.com. You can follow her on Twitter. It's Rusul Alrubail, and also her website is that as well, .com. So I'm going to hand it to her to inspire you.
Thank you so much, Shelley. So just making sure that my slides, you can see them right now.
Beautiful.
Okay. So I just wanted to say a little bit, introduce myself to everyone that's listening tonight. And I wanted to thank you for being here and listening to me. Again, I feel very humbled and very excited. And I hope we can all learn something tonight and keep the conversation going afterwards. So before I started, after I became connected on Twitter, which was a year ago, I was very inspired by everything that the educators that I connected with shared in terms of social media and using social media in the classroom, especially when it comes to blogging and to amplify student voice. And so that was kind of something that was my goal. After I became connected, I wanted to try that out in my classroom. And so I did a lot of research, especially when it comes to the Writing Project. With the research behind that, it's an essay app for students. We did a lot of research, and we found out a lot of information when it comes to students' use of social media. And I'm going to share some of this tonight with you all. So we live in a world of emojis, GIFs, and selfies. They speak for us. They speak for us on social media, and most of our students use that as language to communicate. With media taking up such a large space in our lives, many of us question whether it's impacting our communication skills, but most importantly, our students' communication skills. So when you have Taylor Swift's gift speaking for you, as a teacher, as a mom, as a writer, especially as a mom, I think I worry about the repercussions social media would have on my kids' critical thinking when they grow up, especially in terms of writing and personal and academic communication skills. So with that being said, I had to pause and think about whether impact is usually, we often see impact as a negative thing, but I thought about it, and impact can be a positive thing. Rather, we should always focus on the positive impact of certain changes, especially when it comes to technology being integrated in our lives. Let's focus on the positive and see how we can help students' communication using social media in the classroom. So I wanted to introduce a little bit about the platforms that students use, and many of this is probably for newbies. Many of these platforms, I'm pretty sure you use yourselves, but I wanted to still give a little bit of an introduction just to familiarize ourselves with them so we can discuss them later on. The first one, it's actually my personal favorite, is Instagram, which is a platform that you could share photos and videos with. Recently, they added the video option. It allows users to edit their photos, put filters on them, make them look beautiful, and it gives you an option to make your account either public or private. And many students love using Instagram because it allows them to share pictures and videos about themselves with their friends and family and the rest of the world. The second one, that's the most popular one that often youth use, is Snapchat. And I just recently found out a little bit more about Snapchat from my cousin. After, after doing a little bit of research, I said, you know what, why not go to a real student and ask her why she uses Snapchat. So my cousin is 19, she's a York University student. And I said, why do you like Snapchat? What do you find so special about it? I hear so many negative things about it in the media. What do you use it for? And going back to the impact, the positive impact, my cousin astonished me by why she uses Snapchat. So it's a messaging app that allows you to set a timer on the photos and videos that you use, that you send out to your friends. However, there's something called stories in Snapchat. And she said that Snapchat shares stories. Recently, they started doing global stories around the world. So she said her most favorite one is the one that they did about Ramadan, and then they did one on Eid recently. Today, actually, she shared that with me, just so that people can globally connect and see each other's stories across the world. And I thought that was fascinating. It's something that I didn't know that about that app, and so I thought it's amazing that we don't know this. We just hear the negative. The second one is Tumblr, and Tumblr is a blogging platform. It's also similar to Twitter because you can retweet and share some of people's posts, but it's more of a bigger blogging platform. So you could write large posts, you can share videos, audio, as you can see here, quotes, links, and it has a beautiful interface as well. And the most popular one is Facebook. I think we all have a Facebook account. I actually just recently got mine because of Edutopia, but otherwise I wouldn't get a Facebook account. I deleted mine a few years ago. But it's, again, a fun platform to, mostly for family and friends, to share pictures, videos, images, and status updates. And Twitter is my personal favorite one. This is my primary mode of communication. Unless it's family, then we use Viber. But Twitter is one of the popular platforms that youth use, students, which, again, I shouldn't be telling you this, but it's 140 characters microblogging platform to share ideas and thoughts on it. So I just wanted to share this infographic. This is not for students. This is over 18. But I wanted to share the usage. So the distribution of the different social networks that people use. As you can see here, Snapchat is the most popular one for people between the ages of 18 to 24. And the second most popular one is Vine. So I'm looking at 18 to 24 because that's closer to our students' age. And again, Snapchat, Vine, very fast-paced social media networks. And you wouldn't guess these were the top two. Now, comparing that with the platforms that youth use, so here 16 to 19, the top one is, as you can see, is Facebook. Facebook will be one of the top ones over the past few years. The second most top ones for 16 to 19 is YouTube. Keep in mind, the study is from 2013, so sometimes it fluctuates, especially when a new app comes up like Snapchat. Now, I don't know exactly when Snapchat was created. That was something that I should look up soon. Some info here. So where teens have social media profiles and accounts. So like I said earlier, Facebook is the most popular one. And through my research, I found out that Facebook is most popular amongst teens because it's a long forum. So status updates allow you to give details. Again, it also gives you the platform to share a lot of photos and videos with family. The settings, keeping it private, public, etc. That's something that appeals to many people. And something tells me that it's probably because it's one of the oldest platforms. I could be wrong, though. I'm just guessing here. So seeing these data, this data, and trying to figure out what students use, I think it's really important to understand not just the age of the group that the social media network is being used by, but we should also focus about the demographics. So what does that mean? It's important to understand the gender, the age. Race and ethnicity plays a huge part in the student's choice, or lack thereof in some situations, of the devices that are used. As well as parent education is one of the important factors because, again, that plays into probably household income and the location of where they live. So this demographics, this type of demographics is so important to look at, especially as a teacher, because when you're thinking about integrating something in your classroom, we should know our students, where they come from, whether they have accessibility to these devices or apps that we're asking them to use. So one of the most astonishing thing that I came across, I guess I shouldn't be so shocked, but I have to admit that I was a little bit shocked that from the Washington Post, in low-income communities, fewer teens have smartphones. So texting is the most common mode of communication. This kind of was surprising to me because we always assume that most teens have smartphones. I mean, I always assume, and that's something that I'm trying to work on my part, is that we should never assume because everybody's background is different, especially our students. So with that being said, that plays into our pedagogical practices and how we're going to integrate technology in the classroom. If my students don't have access to smartphones, I need to figure out how I'm going to integrate it with still providing accessibility to them and catering to their needs. I have a little story to tell about, I hope I have time, but I do have a story to tell about accessibility in the classroom. So a few years ago, I teach college students, and one of my students came up to me and they were asked to write an essay. It was towards the end of the semester, midway, and he astonished me by saying that he's never used a computer in his whole life. He was from Trinidad and Tobago, and he has come from to Canada. He arrived a year ago. Now in Trinidad, they do have computers, of course. Accessibility is often an issue, but he has just, he kind of had a fear with a lot of setbacks as well, personal, family, etc. the issues that we were talking about before when it comes to demographics. So my student said he's never used a computer before, and he wanted to write out his essay, his final essay, by hand and submit it. Needless to say, it was a learning moment for me as a teacher, because I always assumed that students know technology more than myself. And so we had a few sessions where I had to teach him the basics of using a computer and Microsoft Word. We don't have Google Docs in the college, so Microsoft Word is it is. But yeah, we went through that together, and it was such a learning experience for me. Even now when I remember it, it was just, it's a little bit emotional and intense, but I'm glad that we went through it together. So back to my point is that knowing your students is so important. Our students help us understand that what their digital communication needs are. So they would tell you what they need. And go by that. It would create a path for our pedagogical approach in the classroom. So going back to my original question, do these digital tools impact students' oral and written communication in the classroom? Because at the end of the day, as a teacher, that's what we're wondering. Studies, I really like the survey, and if you're interested, the link is on the slides. It's a thorough study that was provided by Pew Research Center as well as the National Writing Project. And notice that teachers of all subjects place a high value on writing, in particular English teachers. So writing is really important. Writing, communicating is an important skill that teachers focus on. And that's not really debatable, I guess. However, when it comes to integrating digital technology in the classroom, teachers, the survey that I indicated, they didn't really show a hesitation when it comes to integrating that. They weren't worried that it would impact students' writing, but there was a big worry that it would create a divide between formal versus informal writing. So as a teacher, as a professor, when students ask me, well, am I supposed to submit an informal or a formal essay? I usually ask them, what do you mean by formal and what do you mean by informal? Because writing is subjective, and when teachers ask you to write something is often subjective. So it's important to, again, communicate the genre that you'd like your students to focus on. Going back to the original point, teachers weren't really worried about technology, but they were worried about other aspects that I'll mention in a sec. So here is a good, I guess, graph that shows teachers' views of potential impact on today's digital ecology on students. So they strongly agree that today's technology allows students to share their work with a wider audience. 52% agree. The last one is 17% don't think that today's digital technologies do more to distract students. 47 agree that they think that it distracts students. So while teachers see the benefits of technology, they still worry about the impact. I think it's great that teachers are focusing on the positive, and it goes back to my impact point about negative versus positive. The survey really taught me that teachers focus on the positive. They try to focus on the positive, but they can't help but think about how it will weigh students down. And so English language arts teachers are the least likely to see digital tools having negative impact on students' writing. That was something that astonished me because, I mean, that's what I believe, but I didn't think that that was the majority of teachers. So it's really good to know that English teachers do not think that digital tools will hinder students' writing. And I think that is due to several reasons. One of the reasons is that teachers are used to walking students through the writing process. And so as a teacher, you think, this digital tool is not going to stop in the way of my teaching. It's not going to hinder my students' writing because we're going to go through it together. It's going to be a process. It's not something that is stagnant. It's something that you go through, you learn from, first draft, second draft, third draft, edit, publish. So as English teachers, we know this. And we know that the more you write, the more your writing improves. So I could see that that's why teachers do not see digital tools as a hindrance to student writing. The one thing that kind of made me a little bit sad is that while teachers see the positive impact of digital tools, they often don't consider texting, blogging as real writing. And that's something that we need to work on. So I'll just read out this quote. I thought it was a little bit important. So in 2008, Pew Internet survey of teens on this topic, the consensus among 12 to 17-year-olds was that there's a fundamental distinction between their digital communications with friends and family and the more formal writing they do for school or for their own purposes. Only the latter is considered writing in teens' eyes. That is something that we must change. Students, teenagers need to see that their writing is important and real. What they do in the classroom is writing, but what they do outside of the classroom is also real writing. That is something that we need to stress as English teachers and as teachers in general. Real writing to teachers and students, sadly, was confined in the parameters of classroom assignments. So while teachers understand that writing happens outside the classroom and they consider it writing, when it comes to real writing, they consider it to be only classroom assignments. So essays, research papers, responses, reflections, that's real writing that happens in the classroom. But everything else, letters to friends, blogging, reflection pieces, journals, texting, tweeting, that is not real writing. We need to help students see that their blogging, texting, and tweeting on social media is real writing. Why, you say? Why is that important? Because it'll empower them to see that what they do outside in the public, in the digital space, can help them professionally and personally when it comes to growth and writing. It's also important because they'll realize that everything they do impacts who they are and their future careers. That's why I think that empowering students to think blogging, texting, and tweeting on social media is real writing, because it'll help them focus on building a positive image on social media of themselves. Social media, the language of social media is actually the future of our careers. It's actually what's happening now in careers. So when I worked at Design Co-Founders, just like many other tech companies and design companies and tech-savvy companies use Slack. It's a workplace communication, but you can also use it for personal reasons. And we use Slack to communicate with our team members and share documents, share videos, everything. So I just wanted to show you a little bit about how the communication is happening right now in the real world. Jetty joined. People give her a high five. They star her. They favorite that she joined their team. You could do a poll using the emojis that were a kitty cat and rabbit. It's so multidimensional. So seeing it might look a little bit funny or not really professional, but in the real world, this is what's happening out there. And so to divide images and all of that from our regular communication from the students is doing a disservice to them. So as a teacher, how can you start? Think of it as a digital writing process. Incorporating social media as part of writing and communication is a process. It takes time, it takes work, but in the end, your class will be formatted that fits the needs of your students. I really highly recommend, while I was doing my research, I read Crafting Digital Writing by Troy Hicks. He's also on Twitter. If you can find him and tweet at him, his book is amazing. If you're interested in digital writing, knowing more about how to incorporate that in your classroom, especially your English classroom, it's the book to get. So this quote stood out to me. He said, "As students compose text, social media helps them develop ideas, give and receive feedback, and ultimately share their work with a wider worldwide audience." So knowing that your writing will be viewed by so many people, this alone will help and encourage and inspire students to write well. This will inspire them to create, to build, and to really work hard at their writing process. Seeing it as text, I think that's the important key here. So for teachers, if you want to start, this is just the basics, but choose a platform. And I think for me, when I chose a platform for blogging for my students, that was the most time-consuming part, because I had to do a little bit of research about which one would fit the needs of my students. Then plan. How are you going to approach this in the classroom in relation to your lessons, in relation to what you already do? Try to integrate it. So modify, do not substitute, because I think modification will help you go through the learning curve a lot better. Write, revise yourself, and give feedback. Feedback to yourself, feedback to students, I think is really important. So modeling digital writing to your students is key here. When I introduced blogging to my students, I had to open up my Medium. That's where my blogging was at first before I started my own website. And I said, here, I started blogging, and this is one of my blogs. And isn't this so silly? Look at my title. And they were so inspired, regardless of my blogs and how disconnected it was from their real world, because I was blogging about education and they could care less about that. But they were really inspired. They started asking me, where did you find this image? And how do you find your images? How do you make sure it's copyright? And all of these questions that they had. You could tell that they just wanted to try something new because their teacher was doing it. For students, plan, write, revise, publish, comment. Again, see, this is a streamline of a writing process. So you have to go through all of these. But at the end of the day, the process is what's going to help them be better communicators. It's not the app, it's not Snapchat. I mean, it can help them, right? But going through that process together is what's so important. So empower students to write. How powerful is it to see their writing afterwards, after you've gone through all of the integration, and then you see their writing and you see their comments on each other's posts, and it's wonderful. I think student voice needs to be nurtured and appreciated in the classroom, regardless of the outlet. So whether you use Medium, whether you use WordPress, Blogger, I use Blogger for my class. It doesn't really matter. I think when teachers show the importance of formal communication on social media platforms, students are more inclined to practice good digital citizenship, and that way they look after their image and they care about it, and they work hard to perfect it for the real world. So let's keep this conversation going, please. I'm at Twitter. Most of you know me at Rusul Alrubail. I'm also the editor of Synapse on Medium. It's one of the largest publications on Medium on teaching, learning, and education. And we're growing really rapidly at 20,000 followers. So if you're a new teacher that is looking to start blogging, please submit to our publication. Your work is really important and needs to be heard. Writing app, it's beta version, and I'm hoping that you would click on it. Writingproject.com. We're going to launch this September, and it's an essay writing app for students. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, and it's designed by design co-founders. And my personal website is rusul@alrubail.com. Thank you.
Well, thank you. There's been plenty of activity in the comment box, and people really, really loved what you had to say and learned a lot. I can read to you some of the comments. I don't necessarily see, well, I did, Chia asked which platform that you ended up using, but I think you answered that with the blogging, when you said blogger. Yeah. And she agrees too. She says that fonts and images definitely matter to our learners.
Oh my goodness, there's so many comments here.
Yes, there are. See, it's a great one. And Tori said, what a great point that students need to see their out-of-school interaction with social media as real writing so that they see the benefits of their career and online image, including their personal growth. Lisa had a really good question. If you could share Troy Hicks' Twitter handle, because she says there's a million of them out there.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And Chia almost followed the carpet salesman. So you can provide the links to those.
I'll provide the links. He's at Hickstro. He's at Hickstro. So HICKSTRO.
Judy makes a good point. Okay, so she says, I do not think all digital tools are bad, but there is some drawback. Some of the digital tools used if not done in a responsible manner.
I agree with you. And I think that here's where we come in and show them what responsible manner means. A lot of our students don't know what responsible is. To us, what's responsible is not the same thing for them. And so showing them what you think is responsible. More importantly, why is it responsible? Or why is this way the more responsible way to present yourself on social media, I think would help, because they'll see the connection.
And we're going to go ahead and end there. So we have your wonderful recording and that many people will watch it, and it ends with your inspiration. So thank you so much again. It was incredible having you here, and it was good to be able to learn from you today.
Thank you so much, Shelly, for having me. I'm very excited, and thank you. I hope to keep the conversation going. I see a lot of notifications on my Twitter, so that's going to be fun to catch up with.
I told you were going to be awesome.
Thank you. I think you're amazing, and I hope you have a restful evening.